He took a vow of silence that he's still observing, even here, in the good place. It's truly inspiring.
Hi, and welcome to Mind for Story, a super secret channel. Today I want to talk about control in Chapter 2 of The Good Place. So I'm going to spoil everything, not on purpose, but if you haven't watched The Good Place in its entirety, please just pause, go watch the show. You can always come back later.
Thank you, Jen. The chaos happened here.
I want to start by asking, who is in control? Like when all that chaotic everything happening in the end of the first episode, is that Michael, the demon architect in charge of the pretend good place here? Or is it Eleanor, who, her every move and choice is what determines what sort of chaos is about to happen? So I found myself going back and forth on that. I also want to talk about Tahani.
Oh no. Powerful people do not handle failure well. Michael could be heading for a total meltdown.
Now, she does make the effort to clean up the neighborhood, which benefits everyone there. But she gives, Michael her additional help, or tries to give additional help to Michael, who is not just someone in the neighborhood. He is the architect of this neighborhood. He is the most powerful being present here. So I wanted to think on that a little bit. And also, she tries so hard to get Jianyu to speak. Her less than direct attempts show that she knows she doesn't have control over Jianyu in that way, but she wants some control over what's going on around her. And there's Jianyu. He is the only one in this episode, I would say, is truly showing unequivocal control. And that's because he's keeping his sort of sphere of influence here very narrow. He made one choice, that he's not going to speak, or at least not around any people, and he is standing by it. That is absolute control over himself. And I mean, control over oneself is even up for debate when it comes to Eleanor throughout this episode, and whether or not she is capable of being good, because she has to try and convince Chidi that she's capable of change so that he will help her. Okay, so my evidence and meanderings that pretty much always get off topic. My first question, is Michael in control of this situation, of what's happening in this neighborhood? And theoretically, yes, as the architect and demon in charge of this torture experience being conducted, he is the one who, I believe he decided that giant shrimp were going to fly through the air, and everyone would suddenly be wearing the same zigzag stripy pajamas that make me think of Charlie Brown.
That was my first time as a fashion don't, and I did not care for it.
But at this point in the story, when it's your first time watching, you don't know that he is actually in control. None of the humans know that at this point. So what we're getting is a really convincing portrayal of someone either losing control.
What is that called again?
Sweat.
Right. You're still not used to being in a human body.
Or acknowledging they have limits to their control.
The whole neighborhood is compromised.
And Tahani, always eager to help someone powerful. I mean, she's very helpful. She's there for Michael.
I don't know what's happening to me. I mean, it's my duty to be calm and in control, and I'm falling apart.
Now, I'm not trying to say don't be helpful. Helping is bad. All helpers are control freaks. I'm not saying any of the things you just heard me say. I'm not. And I'm not saying people in control don't require help. They hire tons of help, so much help. They can't do everything they get credited for without all that help. What I mean to point out here is that Tahani is extending help, I think, because it feeds her ego and she builds her sense of self in this way. And it's not, again, it's not bad or wrong that she does that, but she goes from a place of having control because she makes a choice to help someone, that is being in control of herself, to letting how that person, in this case Michael, responds to her efforts, and that those how they respond to those efforts end up controlling how she feels.
You're a mountain of strength.
I'm not a mountain of strength. I'm a canyon full of poo-poo.
Now, I've thought about this line a lot. Mountain is to canyon as strength is to full of poo-poo? Shouldn't that be weakness or pitifulness? But the more I think on it, the more I feel like this is a perverse sort of Michael telling Tahani that she's in the bad place and he is deceiving her. Like, he doesn't expect her to be able to read into this, and especially with the portrayal he's doing of somebody who's very upset right now. But he doesn't think she's going to figure it out, so he can get away with saying something. Okay, because let me spell it out. Because mountains protrude up to the sky toward, heaven / the good place, and canyon goes down in the earth closer toward hell or, / the bad place. Thinking old Christianity, the little bits that I remember. And if he's full of poo-poo, that's another way to say liar. So he's lying to her and the other humans about being out of control. He's lying to them about them being in the good place, and they are in the bad place. I don't know, I overthought this one a lot, but I feel like that's the sort of thing a demon would do, is tell you that you're in the bad place and that they're lying to you as part of this weird torture. Anyway, to get back on topic, what I was meaning to get at is Tahani is trying to build him up by calling him a mountain of strength, which in this moment in time, it's what, flattery? Is it ego stroking? She only just met Michael the day before, and today he's not been showing her his strength. So what is Tahani basing this idea of mountain of strength on? So when Michael contradicts her, he rejects her assessment of him. He refuses to be moved, emotionally. Basically, he's denying her the control over the situation that she was hoping for. She wanted that feeling of, I made it better, and he just snatched it away. And then to top it off, after all of her effort, Jianyu, while also denying her the things she's been asking of him, wanting him to talk, he steps in and makes Michael feel all better.
Oh, thank you, Jianyu, thank you.
Ultimately, in just the theme of control, I think Jianyu wins this episode, this channel, or this chapter, not channel. Because he keeps his arena of control small. He just focuses on controlling himself in this moment. Now, I know I've just been ragging on her, but I want to acknowledge that Tahani is, from what we see, the only person who expresses concern for Michael as all of this is happening. I want to recognize people who also make an effort to reach out when somebody's going through something hard, even if it is just to offer kind words. I don't want anyone to think I've been trying to say helping is bad. That's not my intended message. I've even been reading a book, New Happy by Stephanie Harrison, which claims that helping is potentially the key to our own happiness. So I don't want to dissuade anyone from choosing to help others. It maybe I would recommend additional thoughtfulness in the process of helping others. And yeah, I'll put the link to New Happy below. You should check it out. Okay, so second question. Is Eleanor actually in control of what's happening in the bad place? Well, they think is the good place, in the neighborhood. Because when everything gets out of control in the neighborhood at the end of the first episode, it was tailored specifically to various choices Eleanor made and things that she said during her first day in this neighborhood. They come across as sort of direct consequences. So, does this mean she is in control of the neighborhood? I want to point out she does appear to have some level of privacy.
Can anyone access our search history? It is 100% confidential. No one can access what you ask me, including Michael.
It's unclear how much privacy she actually has, but one of the things I'm thinking of, we heard Ariana Grande in the Chaos sequence. It was playing very loudly, which came about because of a reference she made in a private conversation with Chidi in her bedroom. So does this mean that Michael, or a demon, was listening and specifically put in that song into the whole thing? Or does it mean that the neighborhood has been programmed or set up to respond to Eleanor in this way, making her almost like a remote control for the neighborhood? So right now I'm thinking of like an episode or two from now when Tahani gives Eleanor a plant, and it wilts and burns, but also blossoms, in direct response to Eleanor's commentary and behavior about Tahani. And I can't imagine a demon trying to torture anyone by rewarding positive behavior with a blossoming, flowering plant. So it does make me think that this space, this neighborhood, has been programmed to be responsive or reactive to Eleanor's behavior in this way. Which, if so, it does make her in control of the neighborhood, right? I mean, so let me know in the comments, especially if you've compiled your own evidence pointing contrary to what I just came up with. I would love to see this in a new light.
Time to make me good, partner.
Slightly different, but related to the previous question. Can Eleanor control her character and choose to be good? Because Chidi doesn't seem sure. Eleanor needs to believe she can be good so that she can find a way to stay here in this neighborhood. And she needs Chidi to believe it's possible too, because she really believes she needs his help.
Favorite book is Kendall Jenner's Instagram feed.
I want to just go ahead. I think this is because I'm feeling defensive, because I'm applying things that Vanessa Zoltan writes about reading as a sacred practice, and I'm here watching TV shows and talking about it. Not that she doesn't apply her practices also to other mediums as well. She does. But I think I'm feeling a little defensive because I've come across these sorts of value statements in, books, movies, TV shows, life before, that implies that if people don't read, they're somehow less than, or if they don't read, high-minded or classic novels, then they're less than. And I very much disagree with that. I think in the future, I'm going to try to reserve judgment when I'm hearing about people's preferences, especially when my instinct is to maybe look down on them for it. Instead, I'm going to try and view it as an opportunity to understand something about them. I'm not saying Chidi is necessarily casting aspersions on Eleanor. He was trying to categorize something that he knows she enjoys. This is really more that I couldn't ignore the sort of line that it reminded me of from other stories. Back to the point, Chidi in this moment has confronted Eleanor about his concerns to communicate to her why he's struggling to make a decision whether or not he wants to help her.
Eleanor and I would love to help.
There's something fun that you want to do, and then there's something less fun that people are doing for the common good. Which do you choose?
I've pondered a lot whether or not this is a controlling move by Chidi, and where I've landed is it's not. He does volunteer them both for pickup duty without Eleanor's agreement, but then he immediately tells her that she has a choice. He makes the choice explicit. If anything, it's an acknowledgement that Chidi knows he can't control Eleanor, right? Now, I get she's been asking him for help, so this could seem like some sort of a weird selfless extortion on Chidi's part, but he's not claiming that he'll go and tell Michael or do anything to harm her if she chooses to go fly instead of help clean the neighborhood. He's just less likely to help her try to be good like she asked. I don't know, if you disagree and you think this is actually a controlling move on Chidi's part, comment below and tell me I'm wrong. Chidi isn't withholding help because he's lazy or mean, and certainly not because he's controlling. He's just so chock full of conflicting ideas about whether or not it's even possible to try to be good. In the end, he names one philosopher who thought it was something you could do.
Aristotle thought that moral virtue is something that you could get better at. He compared it to playing the flute. The more you practice, the more you improve.
The challenge for Eleanor is that she's already developed certain tendencies. She's developed some habits throughout her life.
Wait, you never get picked and you're always the one who draws the name. Let me see that.
There's no need.
Eleanor picks the name from the hat to choose a designated driver for this group. She volunteers for this task so that she can cheat if her own name gets drawn. This kind of move it's controlling and it's selfish. The rest of the group, when they decide to switch to a rotating designated driver sort of setup, which just makes more sense anyway, Eleanor claims the first time when it's supposed to be her turn to have forgotten, and she got out of work early and has been drinking for an hour.
I guess the only place I'll be driving is through the giant loophole in the system I accidentally discovered.
This feels like weaponized, like maybe not incompetence. I don't know, it's manipulative. It's manipulative, whatever it is. Because she's claiming to be out of control over her own memory, which is a phenomena that happens to everyone from time to time. So you can't just call her on it in case it's true. Plus, she's already drinking, so you don't want her to be the designated driver now. Not tonight. So again, this is a controlling move on Eleanor's part. And I want to say these behaviors of Eleanor's are controlling because the group is allowing themselves to be controlled by her. At any time, they could disinvite her from Thursday night drinks. They could have kicked her out of the designated driver group, well before they actually do, and tell her she has to figure out her own rides after, drinking in the bar. But they don't. Do I think, this is something they should spring on her when she's already been drinking? No. But they work together. They work in the same place. At any point, they could come over to her desk one morning when she hasn't had anything to drink and tell her she can no longer rely on any of them to drive her home from the bar on Thursday nights. Back to the, present day in the story. Eleanor is supposed to be cleaning the neighborhood instead of learning how to fly. To prove to Chidi she's not too selfish to learn how to be good, but Eleanor wants both. She wants Chidi's help and to fly today, which leads her to making this choice. You know what? I'm not going to be too hard on Eleanor here. Is this a terrible cleaning job that creates problems and inconvenience for others? Yes, but it's pretty mild in terms of inconvenience, particularly when you think of a few other examples of how people want to handle their own messes later in this story. I mean, Michael erases the human's memories and restarts, his torture sequence in that neighborhood, like, I don't even know how many times. Like, he just starts over instead of trying to get them back on course. The judge, the real judge, when she realizes how complicated it's become for humans to live in ways that are, genuinely doing more good than bad on Earth, she just wants to, again, start over. Just basically end all of life and start it over again. So these are also terrible ways to clean up messy, complicated situations. So yes, I am going to cut Eleanor a little slack for this poor choice. Stuffing trash under someone's rug and into people's bicycle baskets isn't good. And it also leads to the trash storm, which is awful, but really, she's hurting herself more. She wants Chidi's help, and she's making a choice that is less likely to lead to her getting that help. Oh, and then she felt bad afterwards.
I felt bad about what I did. It was a weird feeling, not used to it, didn't love it.
Really, it's the moment when she realizes she couldn't control how she felt about the repercussions to her actions. That's what leads to, the events with Chidi choosing to help her. I have to stress this, though. It wasn't her feelings that changed Chidi's mind. It was her actions. And those actions were spurred by the feelings.
I will help you try.
Oh, wow, man, I swear I won't let you down.
If I was Eleanor here, I think I might be feeling that sort of, that warm, glowy feeling, the one when you get praise that you think you might be worthy of. I know, and one of the places it hits me is like where my cheeks and my jaw, just beyond where my mouth is, and also sort of in the chest. But then I think my heart would drop like a rock into my gut as soon as I heard Janet materialize right after Chidi agreed to help me, because I don't want him to take it back. And I know what I just asked Janet to do, which isn't good, and it completely undermines my I feel bad story that I just fed Chidi. And because I'm definitely about to be caught, again, being less than kind, I think I'd have, this concern hanging out in the back of my mind about whether or not I think I'm capable of being better myself. And then the next day, I get this under my door. I think at this point it might be tempting to think my fate is already out of my control if someone knows I don't belong in the good place. And that might be a compelling excuse to not try to be good. If I was Eleanor in this exact circumstance, I think that's everything that would be going through me. So to wrap it up, I think my big takeaway, after looking for control in this chapter of The Good Place, is that I'm really sort of amazed at how little control anyone can actually legitimately claim. You can say you control yourself, but there are real reasons a person can't always control themselves. I'm also realizing how often we give control to people we resent for how they control us. It's sort of this cycle. And repercussions and consequences aren't control. They're repercussions and consequences. Actively making choices based on adequate information, I'd say that's control. Choosing how to be on purpose is control. But on purpose is a really big qualifier because it encompasses things like, did somebody get good enough sleep? Do they have adequate diet? All kinds of things that really, I'm just going to have to accept that I feel like our control is limited. But that doesn't mean we should just give what control we have up or give it away. I think we should do our best to control our choices and give up this illusion that we control anyone or anything beyond ourselves. I don't know. You tell me. You tell me what you think about these ideas about control. And of course, contradict me in the comments. And have a really lovely day.
Teacup.
It is merely a construct of a dog. It feels no pain or joy or love.
Teacup doesn't love me?